If you want to be the best, then you need to get these small, basic things right.
Yeah.
It is not brave to be rich. I spent a lot of my youth lost within myself because I was trying to find who I was as a man. One of the most powerful words in English is hope.
Before you got into barbering, was that your passion as well, but you were trying to find how to fulfill that passion?
What made me fall into barbering was something that was more divine than.
Today's episode is sponsored by TNC Metal Roofing. TNC Metal Roofing is a small family-owned business constantly striving to outdo competition on quality, appearance, and providing the most cost-effective roofing solutions. All aspects of metal roofing, from new roofs, re-roofs, fascia, and gutter-to-wall cladding. With many builders and private clientele, they are slowly growing to be the next big contender in North Brisbane. TNC stated they are loving the work One Talk does throughout the community and beyond, highlighting mental health is a major thing and often swept under the rug within the building industry, and they want to make it a topic. Never any project TNC will shy away from, and the mental health of their employees is always at the forefront. So check the link in this bio. You can find their website, you can find their Instagram. Please go show the love, go and show the support. Also, if you need any roofing work done, I highly recommend hitting them up. They are the best in the business on Brisbane, and I highly recommend checking them out.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. The marathon continue. Lay that victory lap tonight, though. Victory lap tonight.
Welcome to the One Talk podcast with Ryan McCarthy.
The marathon continues. That's what you would say.
Welcome to the One Talk podcast. Chris, how are you, man?
I'm a big fella. How are you?
Good, brother. Thank you for coming on today's podcast, something that's been in the works for a little while. So it's good to have you down in the chair, man. I'm sure you're used to people sitting down in the barber chair. So it's good for on the other end to have you on a podcast chair, bro.
Yeah, well, it feels like the mirror's turned around.
Is this your first time doing the poddy?
Yes, pretty much, mate. Like over the years, I've had a lot of people ask, and then I've always been someone to push things away. And then after meeting some influential people and buying my first business, I couldn't think of a better place to start. So,
yeah, legend.
That's the main reason why I'm here.
Yeah, awesome, bro. Yeah, I'm keen for it, bro, because we're literally talking about just before we started this episode. Like I've recorded about 160 episodes, but you've probably done thousands unrecorded, sitting down one-on-one with people, cutting hair, sitting down with men every single day. Yeah. Like you've probably done you're probably one of the most qualified podcasters out there.
Well, it's an in-depth knowledge when you serve people or you serve your community. But like the conversations that I have every single day can be anything from having a chat with a little boy about his T-Rex, right through to having a conversation with a grown man about a BAS statement that's gone wrong. So my ability to communicate is obviously my greatest strength, but then I pull back that communication and I try to use my silence. I try to use my ears and I try to actively listen because there's so many people that talk and not enough people listen. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about the beauty of a podcast, and that's why I listen to them, is because it gives us the ability to listen and see what happens in another person's life. It's like a little snapshot, you know what I mean? So and I love them, you know what I mean?
And like you said, one of the most important things that we can do is just listen to people. Was that something that you developed over time from being the barber, or was that something you were aware of before becoming the barber?
Well, coming through the stepping stones of my life, it all started out on a little farm. And one of the big things that my father positionally always taught me was that when you're in life, in a football team, in a boxing ring, in a barbershop, in a business situation, and everything like this, you always find the people that are talking a lot, they're the people that you don't really want to be around. You know what I mean? You want to be around the people that are sitting there, that they're listening, they're observing, they're understanding their environments. And I try to be that, you know what I mean? Because I try to understand that sometimes I don't have the answer. You know, and most of the time I'm not the smartest person in the room. So if I can sit there and I can rabble on with me nonsense a little bit and make people happy, and then I can listen, then it just makes me feel good. And then it also, one day my daughter's going to see everything that I do, and it makes me feel that that's somebody that she's going to look up to, the same way that I look up to my father and my mother. You know what I mean? So that's sort of the stuff that I think makes me the man that I am and the community-orientated person that I am, is because listening, even if it's for 5 minutes a day and we actively make that choice, we're all going to be a better person.
Yeah, 100%, and especially because you're giving, I guess, so many men a platform to be seen and heard as well. I feel like that's so important, like, because at the moment there's Men's Mental Health Month as well,
100%.
just to talk about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, the amount of space that you're able to give men to open up and talk, and I'm assuming you got hundreds of stories over the years where men have opened up, and most of them are probably left with a smile on their face or a bit of hope or just happiness, or even if they're looking good and happy about the way they look, like, just leave them with something.
But you go back onto that word that you just said. It's one of the most powerful words in English is hope. You know what I mean? You look at what we do every day. You look at the world that we live in. Ask yourself, do you hope for a good future? Like, sometimes it freaks me out. You know what I mean? You know, like, you look at what we've just all gone through. We've gone through COVID. We've gone through an invisible recession, trying to separate all this sort of stuff. We've been trying to vote for independence of Aboriginals and all these different things. Why does any of this matter? Like, at the end of the day, like, can't we all just be Australians? You know what I mean? And I see that every single day in my barbershop, is I see people with this same constant state of confusion. And that's not fair. You know, it's we should have enough around us by now that we should feel grounded. We should have houses. We should have things, but we don't have them. You know what I mean? And that's the depth of it all.
Yeah, because it seems like there's so many things out there to try and create division when we really need unity. And it's the same thing with, like, community over competition. And I'm assuming, like, if there's another barbershop in Brisbane, you're not, like, trying to shun them out and be like, no, we're the best. It's like, community is the most important thing. Same thing with me with podcasting. Someone asked me, like, oh, you interview a lot of other podcast hosts. And I go, well, because I love that, because the community aspect of it's awesome. Like, you get so many more benefits from yourself, but also the audience and the people within the community benefit from people coming together and actually uniting. You know?
One of my favourite things to do whenever I go on holidays is I love to go and find another barbershop. Now, I've done this so many times in my life. So I've gone to Uncle Rocco's, I've gone to all different ones everywhere. And I like them not to even know that I'm a barber. So I don't follow them on Instagram. I don't look at them. I don't do nothing. I like to be the customer every so often. And it's a very powerful thing. And any man that's a tradesman in any respect, or woman, or whatever it is, always remember that you were an apprentice once. You should always be the customer. You should always be that person that, you know, shovels the shit sometimes, because it makes you feel good. It makes you proud. And I had one of those experiences quite recently in a barbershop around the corner from my barbershop, which is in the back of Albany Creek. And he didn't even know that I came in. I just booked my appointment, went in, had a lovely experience. And I passionately send him work because he specialises. And I tell a lot of the teenagers about him, and I say, look, guys, you're going to get an amazing haircut here, but there's a guy just up the road, and he's got this cool little shop, and he's in Albany Creek there, and he's going everything to really do that. So you go up there. You know, let me look after the old boys and let me look after the tradies, and you get kids go up the road and get all the cool haircuts. You know what I mean? But people say to me all the time, they're like, why are you like that? And I said to them, well, because that's what he's passionate about. You know, like, all I'm passionate about is just doing haircuts and looking after people. Like, if you find a barber that really has his niche and he really wants to do that, mate, more power to him.
Yeah, 100%. Like, before you got into barbering, was that your passion as well, but you were trying to find how to fulfill that passion, or was it something that you found along the way?
For me, like, it's that indifference. You know, people throw around a lot of words these days to describe mentalities and mental health, and you know, autism, ADHD, artistic. You know, you could probably give me all of those labels all at once, and somehow they made a baby. But I spent a lot of my youth lost within myself, because I was trying to find who I was as a man. And then through, I don't know whether it was dumb luck or whether I think what happened. Sheridan Trend at Aldo's Barbershop, he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. So I signed up for my apprenticeship, and through, I think you can only really use one word, which is love, they all mentored me and turned me into a barber and a part of a community, you know what I mean? And it took a long time for me to become a barber because I was so headstrong.
Yep. But
over time and dedication and not ever letting me technically win, they turned me into an amazing barber. And the blokes that were around me, you know, you got another Chris, you had a Terrence, you had a Reggie, you had all these other blokes all doing their apprenticeships at the same time. And, mate, we all somehow turned out, and we're all really good dudes, you know what I mean? And there was an amazing barber there by the name of Big Tom, and he was just the go-to bloke, and no matter what you did and how angry the bosses were, Tommy was always out the side and always out the back, and he'd arm around you, like, go for a cold beer, mate, you know, what'll fix today, tomorrow, you know what I mean? Like, it's never that bad, you know, you only sacked today, you know, you come back tomorrow, you can still work, you know, like, it was always that type of stuff, and that's what makes me a good businessman, is it some days I get so angry, and I think to myself, you know, what would Big Tom say? And he goes, well, what'll fix today will be tomorrow, and the apprentice will wake up and he'll be back to it, you know what I mean? So it's hard, because I believe what made me fall into barbering was something that was more divine than anything. Like, because I tried so much. I tried being a mechanic, I tried being a chippy, I tried doing everything. I just kept moving away from them, and I was too artistic and too caring. So that's the best way I can answer your question.
Yeah, but it shows the importance as well, because sometimes we don't realise the things that we say to people are like how much of an impact it can have. Like what Big Tommy said to you, you still take to this day, and it helps you in situations and challenge and strife, you know. Yeah. And it can be similar with how you speak to your workers, or how you speak to people that come into the barbershop. Like, the impact of words is so powerful.
They are, because I believe it's the word, but it's also the way we use the words. You know, so my favourite, and I don't want to use swear words, but we all know about the F word in Australia. We all know about the C word. You can use those words and somebody is elated, loves you. Yeah. And then you can use exactly the same word and they hate you.
Yeah.
So
especially the C word in
Australia.
Exactly.
Exactly. And then I see that every single day in the barbershop. So some days when I'm busy and I have a whole heap of business owners and all the people from Brendale that come, I'll say to the boys, I say, oh, bugger off, come back another day. And that's the power of barbering, is that sometimes you're just so busy that you can't do them all, but then they want you to cut their hair so much that they go away and come back. Yeah. Just because you be honest with them.
Yeah.
Well, you know, so that's a pretty special thing.
So how long have you been doing it for? Like, how many years?
Well, the first start of it all was like way back when I was going through like my high school years, and I would do silly haircuts with me mates, you know, behind the toilet blocks and everything like that. And then it was always this go to fro. And then there was this amazing man that I met, and he was around the corner from the Marta Private Hospital, and he owned a hair studio in there called Jaffers. And there was something about that place where I'd always just keep going back, and he'd get me to look after all the girls and the hairdressers, and I'd be blow drying, and it was just this constant happiness that I felt. And then that manifested into, I don't know, going for that interview that day at Aldo's. And that was pretty much at the start of my 20s. Yeah. So, you know, and I'm now 33, turning 34. Yeah. So you can put on a ruler, you can probably put 15 years professionally, and then before that, you can go, well, yeah, he's kind of been doing it for a long time. You know, like it's just I've always been doing it. I don't really understand it. Like it's just something that it flows freely from my body. You know,
sounds like it's something that just manifests today.
Yeah, it's trying to get an artist to explain how they started doing art. Like I don't really have an answer for you, Cobber. I can tell you the rough guidelines of how it happened, but yeah, if I was to put a number on it, I don't know how I'd put a number on it because I've just been doing it forever. So,
yeah. Because like the reason I want to ask that, because I had an idea you've been doing it for at least a decade or so.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, when they get into an industry, even if they're passionate about it, they can sometimes find themselves like stepping into burnout.
Oh,
like, have you ever experienced that? And if you have, like, how did you overcome it to keep your passion alive?
Okay, so if we're going to dive into that Barney Rubble, burnout is the same as everything else that we feel in our lives. So everything from the happiest highs to the lowest of lows, everything can be controlled, but we all need to understand how to control our internal dialogue first. The best way that I've found to do that is by aiming for 1% better every day. So it doesn't matter what that is. Now, some of the smartest, most articulate minds of the 21st century and the 20th century and of the 19th century, if you read their books, they all have the same ideologies. Now, there's this one ideology, and I would say it to anyone that's listening to me and listening to you. It's every morning, make your bed. I don't give a shit how you feel, and I don't care what your excuses are. You make your bed, you go out and you tackle your day. Now, you can be the most burnt out person. You can be going to gym 3 times, or you can be running a marathon. You come home, it doesn't matter what you failed, it doesn't matter what you've succeeded, but you look at that bed, and every day you've made that bed, there's your 1%. And then that's what it is. That's what it is to be somebody that takes yourself out of burnout. Is no matter how big that problem is and how big Mount Everest is, you can start with one step. And when your body tells you something because your mind's too strong, listen to your body. Take your shoes off, go and stand outside in the grass. Let the energy heal you. It's right there. Mother Nature's there. She's the one that made you. She's the one that can heal you. Go for a bushwalk. Ring your dad. Ring your mum. Ring your grandpa or your nanny. Ring somebody that no matter what you say to them, they don't judge you. You know, now that's not going to come from a psychologist, because the psychologist is just going to show you the door. You know, and then if they're going to try and make money off you, they're going to chuck you on some drugs. And that doesn't fix nothing. That just puts a Band-Aid on something. So as far as I'm concerned, I've been burned out quite a few times in my life. And every single time I went to Mother Nature, chucked my swag out, looked up at the stars, a few days later I was good to go.
Back to it.
Yeah, but that's what it comes down to, is realistically knowing that you are a human and you do get burnt out, and that's okay. You know what I mean? As long as you're making your bed, as long as you're, buttering your toast, you'll be fine.
I love that answer. It's okay. I think a lot of people view burnout as like this end gloomy thing. Like you said, it's okay. You got to find a way to reconnect with Earth, like you say, Mother Nature, reconnect with yourself, and starting your day like with a little win, like making your bed.
100%.
Like for me, like when I go to leave the house, and I'm like, you got to make the bed. I'm like, I don't want to. No, I've got to convince myself to do it. I'm like, I'm going to go do it. And I'm like, well, that's already a little win already. I haven't even left the house yet. And it feels like everything else can like be like a ripple effect from that. And the 1% every day, it's great because you look at it, the year as like 365 days. By the end of the year, that's 365%. And even if you have like 2 months of like separate days throughout the year, so like it accumulates to 2 months, that's still 305%. It's like a day where, you feel like you've had a quote unquote setback. Like on a long-term scale, you really haven't. Like you've still gone forward and progressed.
Exactly, because what burnout is and what we're like diving into right now is burnout is the byproduct of success. So if you're not burning out, motherfucker, you're not successful. Like, that's what it comes down to. Now, if you want to be super successful and you want to be the elite of the elite, look at them all. Look at what they do. They embrace the burnout. And they try and try and try. It's like working a muscle. If you work that muscle exactly the same way every day, do you think it's going to get bigger? Do you think it's going to get stronger? No, it won't. So you go to gym and you put on more weight. Now, if you do that with your burnout and you say, no, I'm not burnt out, I'm just going to go heal for a bit and then I'm going to go harder, mate, you're never going to be burnt out. You know what you are going to be? You're going to be the most successful bloke in the street or the successful woman in the street, and everyone's going to want to be you.
That was my framework around it too. I love it because it's not running away from the things that can cause burnout. It's like tolerating your capabilities and abilities to handle stress,
100%.
Like instead of running away from stressful things, if you put yourself in the fire and then you implement, like the strategies to get through that fire pit per se, you're going to come out stronger every time.
Every
like
time.
You said, go to nature, go outside, get some sun, do some breath work, like whatever it is for you.
Anything.
Find the things that really help you regulate stress, and your tolerance gets better each time when a new challenge arises.
And one of my best mates, he's an Australian veteran, and I train with him all the time. And he knew that I was coming into a burnout when I bought my business, because I did the whole manifestation. I did the 120% every day. And he could see that I was coming to a burnout. And as a mate that cares about a mate, he goes, let's go for a camping trip. Went with this place called Hiking Social Group. It was an Instagram thing. Went to Mount Walsh National Park. Now, you go through that place and there's all this cool stuff that everyone wants to go to. And then there's a waterfall. Now, to get to that waterfall, you have to go through a whole entire massive creek. And there's just boulders and just shit everywhere, right? And so you're going through this whole entire thing. And then it takes you at least an hour to get there. And, mate, you talk about burnout, but that's complete hatred. Like, that is like I hated my soul that day. But I knew that I was getting to that waterfall. So when we got to the waterfall, you swim around and everything like that, and then you see the rope. And you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to climb the waterfall. And then I knew that I wasn't smart enough or strong enough to get up there, but I knew my mate, who was an ex-veteran, had that ability, because he had that training, he had the army. So between him and a young fella by the name of Max and just a good group of boys, we helped each other all up to the top of this waterfall, and we all got the beautiful photos and everything like that. No one else in that group did that. The main reason why is because they didn't have the support network around them. You know what I mean? And we did all that, and by the time I got back to that camp, I had way too many beers that night, and I passed out, went to bed, woke up the next morning. I can tell you there was no burnout anymore.
Yeah.
Now,
refreshed.
That's better than anything a doctor can do.
Yeah.
And I said that to me, mate Dan, as I got out of his swag, and I looked at him and I said, oh, mate, I'm good to go. And he said, all right, go off, make your cup of tea. And then he said, we'll pack up the campsite, and now we're here again. You know what I mean? And then until the next time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
It's incredible, like, what getting outdoors, doing physically demanding things and being with other people can do for you. Like, even like sport or boxing gyms and anything that's like physically demanding, like, even with me with soccer, I love it because you're with a group of like 25 other blokes doing something physically, but you're doing it together as a team. Same thing with boxing, like an all-star. They got the coaches, they got the team, then they got the fighter, and then they're all working together to try and get an outcome. And like, I feel like when you put yourself in things like that, I feel like it's hard to, I guess, fall into pits, when you are giving yourself things to step into. Yeah,
with anything with a team orientation, it's like tonight, for example, like Queensland's going in, and the Blues flogged them. You know what I mean? But they're still going in strong. You know what I mean? It's the same as like when you look at like all the boxers that are in that gym. You got your the young fellas, you got the old fellas, and then you got Benny that runs the whole joint. And yes, they all want to win, but do we remember the boxers for the wins? No, you don't. You never remember that. We always remember it for that time that they lost. Muhammad Ali, Denny Green, like all these fellas. And you go, yeah, I can remember that time that he lost, and he handled himself like a man. And that's what makes him immortal. You know what I mean? Like Jonathan Thurston, for example, missed the field goal in the Cowboys grand final, then still won. So if he hadn't have done that, then no one would remember him the way that we remember him. You know what I mean? And then that's what people say. To truly be something that's huge, you have to be able to lose. And you lose with the same grace that you win. I mean, if you can't lose with the same grace that you win, then that's not connective.
Nah, I
you know what I mean?
You like become destructive to yourself as well. Like, you got to be able to, I guess, handle the losses, because like you said, it depends how you come back from it. And if you do come back from it, like, most of the time you come back better. Because like,
100%.
how many lessons do you learn from a loss? I could have done this better, I could have done that. I got unlucky here, but how did I get unlucky? I must have put myself in a certain position or situation. There's so many things to analyze with a loss, but you can come back stronger. And even outside the sports, like in your own personal life, if you do feel like depressed or something like that, like, you can really analyze it from the outside and like, all right, well, how can I learn from this? What can I do to get back to where I was? Or how can I get back to wellness? And if you really step back and analyze and then learn from those things, I think that's when you can come back even stronger.
100%. And like one of the young guys, young Jai, and love even talking about him. I get so fixated on this young athlete, but he wins a lot. But you can tell that if ever he does lose, whenever that happens, he will have it with such a structure. You know what I mean? And it will empower him. You can see it from a mile away. And I've seen it before a few times, especially when I used to race dirt bikes and I used to be on the NRL teams and everything like that. You'd always have this black sheep. Yeah. And you know, you always wanted to be like that. We always want to be like that. But like to have that ability to be able to take it with such grace and such passion and to somehow use it as your fuel, I wish I could do that. You know, sometimes when I lose, I just want to go home and suck my thumb. You know what I mean? And I don't have that conviction, you know what I mean? But it's a skill I'm trying to learn.
Yeah. You know? That's it. We're all trying our best.
100%. But you just see it in some of these young kids, and it's mesmerising, you know, because you go, wow, like, how can somebody have that skill that I want so badly and he be so young or she be so young? You know, sometimes I see it in my daughter, like her cognitive functions, where she will completely fail something. Like I'm talking just arse over tit. Yeah. Gets up, she looks at me and she's like, "Don't worry, Dad, we'll go again." And I'm just like, I wish I could have that passion. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when I fail, it could be failing a pay slip, it could be failing a super payment, it could be all this sort of stuff, and then there's instant consequences from the ATO. And these consequences are some of the worst consequences ever. You know what I mean? That means I'm not eating for a week. You know, like, and that's what people don't understand is that to manifest yourself and to build and build and build and build and build and build and build, and to be entrepreneurial means that you're making mistakes every single day and you're learning from it. Yeah. And you're trying really hard not to fail, but we're human, we fail. You know what I mean? And that's the process that I want to be able to impart onto the next generation is it's okay, mate. It's okay to fail. You know, you don't have to be perfect all the time. Like I failed today with one of my customers because I was doing his head shave and I got a little bit too carried away and he told me not to trim his beard, but then he got carried away as well, and then 2 seconds later, I'm trimming his beard, and then I've done it all. And he said to me, he goes, "Oh, well," he goes, "I got a beautiful head shave and I got a beard trim," but he said, "I didn't want one." I looked at him and I said, "Oh, well, it's all good, mate, so I just charge him for a head shave." It's like, you know what I mean? But even that in itself, if I hadn't have been myself, he could have got really angry at me. Yeah. But he knew he was just as much to blame as I was because we're two idiots in a barber chair talking too much.
It's like being okay for mistakes to happen.
100%.
Like even for myself, like probably about 5 episodes ago, I had a guest come on the podcast and I didn't turn his microphone on. So then we recorded the whole podcast, only my microphone's on. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, sweet. A week later, I go to, because I had a few episodes banged up. A week later, I go to edit the podcast. And I'm like, I can only hear my voice. Are you kidding? So I had to get, because my camera records audio as well. Yeah. So I had to get the camera, my microphone, and try and like use AI and all these other things and work with editors to try and get his voice. I did it a bit, like it came out to a point where it could be uploaded. Yes. I was just like, all right, next time, make sure you click into the microphones. Like I usually 100%. Do that, but I just, because I got so complacent because everything's just second nature now. Yes. But because I got complacent, a mistake happened. Yeah. It's like, no, you've kind of got to be switched on.
But it's beautiful that you said that because that's something that I impart onto my apprentices every single day. Complacency is failure. Yeah. Now, people look at me all the time and they go, "Oh, you must be insane." And I say, okay, cool. I said, next time you're driving down the street and you get a speeding fine, what was that? Yeah. And they look at me and they go, "Oh, you know, that was the pigs, you know, flash with cash and everything like that." No, it wasn't. It was your complacency because you weren't thinking about the 2-ton vehicle that you were driving down the road doing 75 k's an hour in a 60 zone. Yeah. And they go, "Oh, no. Take accountability. You know, you're a man, you're a woman. You did that." Yeah. And they go, "Oh, it's revenue raising." Okay, cool. It's revenue raising. The government is basically bankrupt, and they're paying for the Olympics, mate. So yeah, they probably need some money.
But you're still speeding.
Exactly. Like it doesn't really matter as long as it's not a public holiday and you lose your license, then we're sweet.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't take accountability, like I could have easily blamed the microphone, I could have easily blamed the road and stuff like that. I could have blamed everything else. Yeah. And I think if you don't take accountability, you take the power out of your own hands.
Yeah, because it's oppositional to yourself.
Yeah.
The only person you're hurting in that situation is the man in the glass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then what are you going to do with him? What are you going to do? Punch the glass? Yeah. You know what I mean? Then you're going to get busted up knuckles, and you go into the thing, you get stitches. You know what I mean? Then you wake up the next day and do the same thing?
Yeah.
So it's the whole thing. You know, like, it was your mistake. You found a solution. You probably contacted the person that you did the podcast with, and they're like, look, we've had a few things, da-da-da-da. Worst case scenario, you just bring him in another time and say, fucking happy days.
Yeah, we spit it again.
Exactly. You know, and that's the thing, is maybe, truly speaking, in that whole process that you did, maybe that wasn't truly a failure. Maybe that was a pathway to a higher level of success. Yeah. Because you have to fail all of this stuff that you do a certain amount of times before you get good at it. Mm-hmm. You know, there's an old saying, and I love it. You have 3 stonemasons, right? Now, you have the first stonemason, you walk up to him and you say, what are you building? He goes, oh, I'm just building a wall. You go up to the second stonemason and you say, what are you building? He goes, oh, I'm building someone's dream. And then he goes, oh, okay, sweet. And then you walk up to the third stonemason, and he's a bit older, and you think to yourself, what are you doing? And he goes, mate, I build a place where people come to worship. Now, you think about that power. So that's 3 people doing exactly the same job. The difference is the thought process. Yeah. How do you think he started building things so that people could worship? Because he started with the wall. How many times do you think he had to fail to get to that point where he could build the church or the steeple or anything like that? Yeah. He probably had to fail a lot of times.
A lot of times. I feel like that's where a lot of people find challenges, and I've definitely found this in the past as well. Like, a lot of people think they have to be amazing at something to start. It's like, to become amazing at something, like, you have to start first. Like, the beginning has to begin before you get to a certain point where you can build the church or the Holy Grail, you know? Like, it starts stone by stone, and eventually the thing will be built. But you can't just rock up and it's just built there already, or the end result's there already. Like, you have to start first.
That's what I say to any apprentice and to any young person that's listening to this podcast right now. I will give you a hot tip that any boss won't tell you. There's more power in just showing up. Do you know how many times I will do a trial and they will sell themselves? They have the best resumes, the best thing and everything like that. And then the first day, they don't even know to show up 5 minutes early to the shift. Okay, so before you've even started your trial, you've already lost your job, mate. Now, I can give you that. That's universal knowledge from any boss. You know why? Because we want to see you come there a little bit early, because that shows us that you will show up. You know what I mean? That shows us that when you ring and you actually tell us that you're sick, we're going to believe you. You know what I mean? Like, I have a young apprentice right now, and he's going through something, and he rang me up the other day. He goes, look, I don't want to talk about it, boss man. I'm just going through something. Don't worry, mate. Got your back. That's it. That's all I need to know. I back him 110%. He backs me 110%. I know he's going through something. Then he comes to work. He's like, I'm still going through it. I'm just going to be doing this. I'm not cutting hair this week or whatever it is. Cool, man. No problems. Communication, showing up, dedication. Like, all of these big things are things that the education system doesn't teach anymore. You know what I mean? But these are the things that you need just to have a job.
Yeah. The standard things, principles,
Exactly. Imagine if I didn't do that. Imagine it came to payroll. You know what I mean? I just go, oh, I'm sick. What do you think's going to happen? Yeah. My company would literally liquidate overnight. You know, I'd have the ATO ringing me. I'd have all of my employees ringing me. My bookkeeper would be trying to cut my head off. Like, it'd just be over. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to be the best, then you need to get these small, basic things right. You know what I mean? It's like today, I rang you for this podcast because I knew that I was here and I was going through traffic. So I sent you a text message. Yeah, mate, give me a call. Gave you a call. I said, what did I say? Like, I can't even remember. I said, look, running late. It's just a bit shit house, da-da-da. Communication. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's what it all comes down to.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, it's not something that we're taught in schools of communication. Like, we learn a lot about, I guess, like maths and English and things like that, but there's no classes to actually like learn art communication or learn standard principles or to learn morals and values or how to, I guess, function in the real world. Like, because myself, I grew up from 11 years old, probably even a little bit younger. Yeah. Like, I grew up without a father. Yeah. So I remember the first time I shook like an older bloke's hand. It was at a job site. He like laughed at me. He goes, "What the fuck's that?" Yeah. Now I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, "This is how you actually shake a hand." But like, simple things like that. I had no idea like was an actual thing in the real world.
Yeah.
Like you gotta shake someone's hand a certain way. You gotta look people in the eyes. You gotta be respectful in certain situations when you're speaking to people. Like it's all like there's so many unwritten rules out there.
Yeah, masculinity is invisible. Invisible. You know, femininity is a very visible thing. So like I say that to people all the time. A woman will come to you in any respect. You can see everything. She will show you everything like that. Masculinity, we hide everything. You know what I mean? Like blokes will come to me for years and I don't even know their name. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like and they will tell me stuff about intimacy issues, children, religion, everything. And I don't even know their fucking name. Like I'm seriously, it is that bad right now for men because we don't have a voice anymore. You know, you go to gyms. You know, there's a place for girls. There's no place for men.
Yeah, there's like all girls gyms,
exactly.
all men's gyms. Yeah.
You know, there's a bloke down the south in Melbourne. He's just outside of the South Precinct, and he has a male only barbershop. Power to him. Yeah. And you know how many females are attacking him? Yeah. I mean, how many Karens out there and all this type of stuff. And I said, why? Do we attack you for having Fernwood? Do we attack you for controlling the kindergartens and doing everything? Or do we just say, okay? You know what I mean? And then when you think about that, why does one have to be stronger than the other? All we've ever aimed for is equality. It's equal now. Yeah. Like we don't have to keep fighting. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's you know, and that's what happened in my own relationship with the mother of my child. It's just everything happened the way it was meant to happen, and I became a businessman, and she became a completely different person. And I don't blame her for it. But like at the end of the day, it was shit because I lost my best friend, but I still have my daughter. And I do everything I possibly can to be there and to father and to do everything. But I didn't think that was going to happen to me. You know what I mean? And then I had to live with that. And then I felt the grief of it. And then I felt like the loss and the hardships. And then I had to move back home with my mum and dad because I couldn't even afford to feed myself. Yeah. You know what I mean? So people don't understand that this is the reason why men kill themselves. It's not the fact that we don't have the ability to do what me and you are doing. It's the fact that we're terrified of it. Because if you've got a whole heap of people that are saying no, what do you think we're going to believe? Yeah. It's a no. You know, like I go to school and you know how hard it was for me to approach the other mums and dads just to set up play dates for my little girl with other little girls. It's fucking terrifying. I can imagine, yeah. Absolutely terrifying. And then I was so lucky that there was a mum in that class that had my back. And I said to her, I don't know what to do. And she said, don't worry, mate. She said, you do this, this, and this. I got some notes with my mum, wrote them all down. We sent them to all the families, set up like good communications, everything like that, and everyone's happy. Yeah. And my little girl gets to have little girls and little boys over. And like, I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
That's the thing though, man. Like a lot of men feel like before people even meet them, they're not trusted. Yeah. They're not seen. Yeah. They're probably not respected in some regards as well. 100%. There's so many things where like a lot of blokes feel, especially, I think one of the biggest things is like that sense of loneliness. I think loneliness stems from all those other things you talked about there because they may feel like, you know, you don't have the support, no one will want to hear them. Maybe no one cares as well. And that sense of loneliness is a killer.
Well, you can directionally argue that point and say that most men will feel lonely in relationships as well. I did.
Yeah, I've been there.
Exactly. Like, and I say that to girls when I go on dates, and I say that to people when I do things. Is what I'm looking for is a sense of like passion, and I say that with all empathy as well, because passion can be bad and it can be good, but at least it's real. You know what I mean? Like, I've got no problems with having a fight with somebody that I love. That shows me that you care about me. Yeah. Like, I've got a shop mum, and some days she rips shreds off me. But she never, ever doesn't show respect.
Yeah, it's not disrespectful.
And I never not show her respect. Even to the point where some days we don't even want to talk to each other. Yeah. There is always respect. And that's what I say to men and women, and that's what I say to everybody, is if we can just find respect and say, yep, you're on your journey, you're doing your thing. I don't agree with that, but that doesn't mean I'm going to treat you badly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then being in relationships and then having children, having the pressures, politics, everything that we go through, you've got to find a even stronger level of respect. You know what I mean? It's like boxing. If you're punching somebody, they have to respect you to the point that you both agree that you're not putting someone in hospital.
Because what happens is, like, if you see two boxers and one doesn't respect the other one, usually the one who's disrespectful ends up getting sparked.
100%, because I've been in the ring. I've done boxing a few times. A lot of it's amateur stuff. And I say that to everybody. I could get into the ring with a pro and I'd look him in the eyes and say, mate, guess what we're doing? And he goes, oh, we're doing this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, cool. And we're doing all of it for charity. We'll flog the shit out of each other. Yeah. Do you think someone's going to hurt somebody? No. I'm not challenging him. I'm not saying that I'm going to be better than you. What I'm saying is I'm saying let's do something cool and let's get a whole heap of money together and give it to a kid that's dying from cancer. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then him, when he's doing pro boxing and then he has that with another pro boxer, as long as they've always got that connection, then the world's going to be a better place. It's the same as UFC fighting. You know, like there's a guy that owns base training up the road from me in my barbershop. His name's Damo, and he's literally the most respectful, beautiful man I've ever met in my entire life. And like to see his grace and the way that he is, mate, any UFC fighter should want to be that. You know what I mean? But you're not trying to kill somebody. You know, this is sport at the end of the day. Yeah. And it's a blood sport, but like death isn't a part of it. No. You know what I mean?
Not intentionally going in there to end someone's life.
Yeah, and you watched, who was it in his last fight? He was here in Brisbane. I think it might have been, it was Wilson or Vegas or whatever it was.
Wilson and Dib.
Yeah. And you were watching them and they were fighting with such skill and such everything like that. There was no disrespect. And then at the end of the match, they were still mates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, you got to take your hat off that sort of stuff.
That was good to see between Wilson and Dib too, because like the build up and then during the fight as well, like where they're like going head to head, like at the end of the round, like giving each other words. But as soon as that bell dings at the end, no bad blood, shake hands, lift each other's arms, you know, give each other respect and leave it all in the ring. Because
that's what it comes down to is you've got an elitist and someone's going to win. Yeah. Like that's what we're there for. That's what we're placing bets on. That's what we're doing. And he wants to win and he wants to win. But then if they don't have the respect, then we're not going to get what we're paying for. You know what I mean? We're not going to see an event. We're just going to see somebody bashing somebody and everyone's going to like it, but it's just going to be like, okay, cool. Well, like there's better boxing. You know what I mean? And if we want to be a united country with a voice, then everything from grassroots, no matter what it is, right through to the top tier, it all needs to have that. You know what I mean? And what do you think the big countries do? A lot better than us is respect.
Yeah. And Liam Wilson's a good example of that because in that first fight against Dib, he knocked him out. Yeah. But in the second fight, he didn't go into that fight thinking, I've already knocked this guy out. This should be easy. He wasn't thinking like that at all. No. Like a lot of people on the outside may have been typing it on comments or saying it as reporters and whatnot. But Liam's like, no, like, if I go on this ring, I could get hit too.
Exactly.
And he's respected him. And I know Liam would have trained hard, ate right, did everything to an absolute T to make sure he's prepared for that fight.
100%. And you can see that in Liam. Like I've met the man a couple of times. And one of the times I met him was in the gym and he had somebody with him that he was bringing in and somebody that had a hard life. And even on a day like that, you can see the brilliance in his soul. Is that the simple fact of it all is he goes, yeah, I'm a boxer. Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing all this sort of stuff, but I'll push all that to the side because this guy needs a hand. You know, and you see that in the ring with him, with the way that he fights, and you can see everything about him. It's just like, well, cool. Like that's someone that I'd stand beside. You know what I mean? And that's what you want in life. If you're going to stand beside someone, and especially being one of their sponsors for All Star Boxing. It's the reason why I stand strong. It's because they're all good. You know what I mean? And some of them have done prison time. Some of them haven't. There's all this sort of stuff. But that is all pushed aside because they're just trying to do something good with their life. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And it's good to have like these examples for the young fellas as well.
100%.
Like another story around Liam, like I saw him out when I was out for dinner once with my mate. That's when I told him I was talking to him, and then my mate's never met Liam before, but my mate introduced himself, and he goes, "Oh, Liam, I saw you." I won't say the suburb because I don't want to say where he lives, but he was like, my mate says to Liam, "I saw you jogging the other day."
Yeah. And
Liam goes, "Well, next time, put the window down and say hello, and we'll have a chat."
Exactly.
like Liam doesn't even know him. Yeah. And Liam's like, "Just we'll have a chat next time." He's like, "Say hello."
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Like all of those boys over the last year or so, I've seen so many of those pros come in and out of my barber's chair, and the boys all know that they come to my barbershop, they get free haircuts, and the whole thing is I'm not doing it for them because I truly don't care about them. What I'm doing it for is to inspire the children, to say that there is safe places, and these guys are the vessels, and they're the guys that have put the hard work in and the grind and everything like that, and they're role models. These kids look up to them. You know what I mean? It's the same as a few of the really famous NRL players, and you can name the good ones off the top of your head because they're the ones that care about the kids. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then the second you find out that they care about the kids, it's like Corey Oates. Like I've cut his hair countless times, and he is just a pleasure. Even if he's taking the piss out of you, you still somehow like him. You know what I mean? Because he walks out of the barbershop and some kid comes running up to him and he's down there sitting there, and most of them just walk straight past the kids. Yeah. You know what I mean? But then there's these 1%ers that are just like, no, he's really that. And we talk about Liam. Liam's one of those guys. Yeah. I guarantee you, if you go running past him, or you saw him and you waved to him, he'd be like, yeah, come run with me.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? And that's the type of people that we need in society that are fighting that fight, that are raising that flag, because that's going to give us a better society. You know what I mean?
100%. Especially these faces like a Corey Oates or a Liam who are on national television in Australia, being this example for the next generation. Even someone like Petro Sivanasiva. I caught up with him for coffee and he was talking to me about like all the stuff that he does in the communities across Queensland, across Fiji and all this stuff as well. And it's so good to see like people like beyond their careers still wanting to make an impact.
We can talk about Petro, like because I used to manage a big barbershop over in North Lakes, and Petro used to come into that barbershop, he'd get his hair cut, and every single time he'd pay it for. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like I said to him every time, I said, brother, and he goes, no. He said, there'll be some old bloke. He said, put some more money on the till. And I kept it to the side. And then you'd see those old guys coming through. And some of them, they'd have Alzheimer's, or they'd have this, or they'd have that. Like, I'm sorry, but how do we not talk about this all the time? You know what I mean? And even the bosses of Cole Naylor, like I'd tell them, and they'd just be like, oh, really? Like, no one even knew, you know what I mean? Like, and I used to say to him, I'm just like, and it's just invisible. And Petro would always say, don't tell him. So I'd never tell the old boys. I'd just never tell them. I'd just say, look, it's okay. And
then doing it for shine. Like just doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the old boys would get grumpy with you, right? So then they'd leave, and then they'd go buy coffees for the barbershop. Yeah. And it's that power of somebody like Petro or Corey or Liam or whoever the person is, of doing this slight thing that's different. Yeah. And then it's what I love to call the butterfly effect, because then it just goes bam and it opens, and then the next person does something nice, and then it opens again, and the next person does something nice, and you find in 3 or 4 weeks, then there's 20 people that have done something nice for like no reason. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and isn't that power?
100%.
Like you think about it, like that's more than what money can buy.
So think about 20 people have made a positive impact. So they've impacted another 20 people. So that's 40. Let's say these 40 people are connected to 10 people that they've seen that day. And because they feel positive and made a positive impact, they feel good. So 10 people they just interact with that day are going to get a good reception from them. Yeah. So that's potentially 400 people impacted just by one act.
100%. I was walking through the gym the other day, and you could see there's this young girl, stupidly insecure. And she was walking past, all sheepish, everything like that. All I did was smile. Big grin on my face. Made myself look like an absolute dickhead. Yeah. Like, I didn't even have my right training shoes on. I had my R.M. Williams boots on because I forgot my sneakers. And she looked at me, and she thought I was an absolute clown, and she had a big smile on her face. I thought for that second she wasn't insecure. Done. That's my good deed for the day.
Took a mind off it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's someone's daughter, mate. You know what I mean? And that means something to me because I've got a daughter. But, like, cool. If the byproduct of that is me feeling like a bit of a twat and then a whole heap of people looking at me and I look like an idiot, but then she feels good, yeah, that's worth it.
And the thing is, like, all these people that think you're a twat, like within 10 seconds they've forgotten about it.
Oh,
but that girl might go home remembering it.
That girl, that might be that big moment for her. That might be the reason why she goes back to gym. You know, that could have been her first day, and she could have been so like anxious, insecure, like all of this shit. And she could have had a whole heap of bullies at school that were saying that you're ugly, you're this, or you've got acne, or everything. And then there's just some old idiot like me walking around a gym that I probably shouldn't even be at. Yeah. Had a big beard on, and he's wearing a pair of boots instead of sneakers. And then I smiled, and then she's just like, oh, you know, and you could see it lifted her. Yeah. And then that's the power of humanity. That's what makes us human. You know what I mean? So it's big stuff.
It shows like what, you know, like barbers and gym owners and just everyday people, like even yourself with that girl at the gym, like the importance of just, you know, like a smile or a positive interaction or doing the act of kindness to someone or giving someone words like Big Tommy did with you. Like there's so many different ways where you can be of service to people in the littlest things. Like for me, and I always give him the highest praises. So his name's Joel. He owns Average Joel's Gym on Barber Island. And he did like, at the time he had no idea he was doing it. Yeah. But still to this day, it stays with me. So like I used to be addicted to drugs. I've been clean for 10 years now. But when I first got clean, I started to a gym and I was so insecure going because I was like 60 kilos wet. Yeah. So like underweight and I was real thin. Ended up going to the gym and Joel owned it. I walked in there, I was a bit, you know, like shy and whatnot. And he just took me under his wing, goes, all right, this is the bench, got me on the bench, started showing me how to use the bench. Yeah. It's like, this is a Smith machine. So he started like showing me everything in the gym. I didn't even pay for a PT session. Yeah. And then he ended up just like guiding me like for weeks and weeks and weeks to the point where I felt comfortable going by myself. And I'm sure he's done that to many other people. 100%. But just for that, you know, for him giving up 10 minutes to show me the machines, made me want to go back to the gym and like improve on myself even more. And
we've got pillars like that in our communities. There's another fella called Bo from Norris Street.
Yeah, Bo, he's awesome.
You heard his story.
Yeah, I had him on the pod.
And that's the thing. Like I say that to people all the time is that we can all be drug addicts. Yeah. We can all be alcoholics. We can all be all this sort of stuff. I can put my hand up and say that there's been multiple things that I've been addicted to in my life and I'm ashamed to say it. But like that's what makes us vulnerable, you know, and then through vulnerability, that becomes strength. Yeah. You know, the most precious stones we have in the world are because of pressure. You know, you put yourself under pressure. Yeah. That's the reason why you're here and you're doing these talks and you're doing podcasts and everything like that. I don't want to turn the microphone around on you or anything, but the power of a podcast means that I can ask you questions and you can ask me questions. And my biggest question to you is the foundation that you felt in that gym. Do you not think that manifests today?
Oh, 100%. That was the core.
There you go.
That was the starting point. That's what got me out of my mental health issues. That's what helped me stay away from drugs. And that's what helped me find the purpose.
Exactly. And that's so you've got a big Joel and then mine was a big Tom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I put a lot of power to that man and he would downplay it every single time. But he was, in my mind, so much more powerful than a boss because I was never scared of him. You know what I mean? I was never challenged by him. Like, and it's the same as what you're talking about. That's what it needs to be. It's that uncompromising like love or mateship or kinship. I don't know what you call it, but men can give that to men. And that's not homosexual. That's not gay. That's not any of this crap that there's fucking labels. That's just men looking after men. Yeah. And we can do it.
It's brotherhood.
Yeah. And it's like today, like I approached you nervous as, never done it before. And the reason why I did that is because I spoke to Benny from the All-Star Boxing. I spoke to my mate Braden, who owns Erupt Jewelers, and I spoke to all these other dudes that do it. I thought, I'd love to do it. And they just said, okay, so pick a guy that you like. Yeah. Here I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I could have gone and spoken to Alpha Blokes or done all this sort of stuff, but I'm like, I truly didn't like them because I didn't like their methodologies, you know, and that's the thing. I liked your methodologies and I like the way you communicate, so that's why I chose you.
Oh, awesome, bro. I appreciate that feedback. Yeah. But like, do you ever have aspirations of starting your own podcast as well, like barbershop talks, or have you ever had any ideas around starting your own version? Like, it doesn't have to be like a long form, short form, like anything.
Yeah, my big thing with barbering is I want to utilize people in barbering, right? So I'm the vessel, right? So I've always seen it as that. Now, I do Frothies and Fades on Fridays at Hip Hops. Now, that is a full vessel augmentation of barbering. So I've got a barber chair, I've got beer being made, I've got all of this sort of stuff. Now, I give out the invite to anybody, anyone. You want to come and do a podcast, come and do it in a brewery.
That'd be sick.
You know what I mean? And bring all your shit, bring all your friends, and we can all sit there, drink beers, talk shit. You know what I mean? Now, that's what it's for. Now, the owner of Hip Hop's Brewing Co. is a huge advocate of men's mental health. And the reason why is because he's seen it from the other side. Yeah. You know, and he goes, it is hard. Now, he doesn't charge me $1 for that. Now, I've got a barber chair in a brewery. It's pretty much, I don't know, I can't find it anywhere else in Australia, so I can maybe say cliche, it's an Australian first. But we put it there, and I make my money, and then every month I tell him roughly what I've made. Honesty system, pure honesty. And then he goes, get 10% and we nominate a charity. Yeah. Whatever it is. And then he might nominate one, or I might nominate one, or there could be like a homeless kid or whatever it is. And we just go, here's some money. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's what I say to people about my P&L and what I'm trying to do as a businessman. If I see profit, I see failure. Yeah. And that's just me as a person. The reason why is because profit is failure. I pay myself a good wage. I pay my employees a good wage. And then if I'm profiteering from a company, then that's me not utilising its wealth. So I should be utilising that wealth like a tool, like etching it in the cement. You know, you listen to the accountants. The accountants are a bunch of idiots, mate. They're historians. They don't even know they asked from their elbows. They keep going self-managed super funds and all this sort of stuff. Now you look at generational wealth. If you listen to your accountant and put generational wealth in the same sentence, they won't even know what to talk to you about. Yeah. So then I walked away from my accountant, so I found a financial planner. And, mate, we should all do that. Yeah. Because he opens up the light. He goes, yep, cool, bang, 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 do this, do this, do this. And he wants to see me bleed my company for every single cent that I can get out of it. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, 100%.
Pay myself good wages, pay my employees good wages, and do the right thing. And then every time a kid comes in and needs a sponsorship, there you go, mate, here's some money. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's what I love. Like, one of my favourite sayings is do what's right, not what's easy.
Exactly, because, like, we don't need more billionaires. Yeah. Like, okay, we've seen a lot of them.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, we do get another billionaire, there's still so much struggle in the community.
Well, because, like, I remember I met one once, and I'm not going to do names or anything like that, but he's a big mining guy in Australia. And his conversation that we had at a bar, drinking a couple of Milton Mangoes, you could see that he was so close to just doing exactly what I'm saying, but he wasn't brave enough. Okay, you know, this is what I keep saying to people. It is like not brave to be rich. Yeah. If you're driving a yank tank, if you're doing all this sort of stuff and you're going 1,000,000 miles an hour, you're like, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'll give you a hot tip, mate. The rich man drives a Lamborghini. You want to know why? Because he sacrificed. Right? Yeah. And then at some point in your life, you reward yourself. That's when you retire. You go buy your Lamborghini. You go buy your McLaren. Do it. But do it once you've made something, you know, and once you've been proud and you've put like 20 or 30 or 40 years in the grey, you know, and you've paid it forward. You never see young people doing this because they're so consumed with identity issues. You know what I mean? Like, why would you go and buy an American ute and put it in Australia and it doesn't fit on the road and then tell everyone how cool you are? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then you get your FBTs and your clearances and you have all of these issues. Buy the shitbox, mate.
What happened to a souped up commo?
Exactly. But like, what happened? Yeah. You know, I've got a beautiful piece of Australian history that's 1948, an old Chevy that I'm working on in the back with a custom fab place, and that's something that's really dear to me because it's a piece of Australian history. The reason why I'm patriotic about that is because it is Australian. What are we going to give to our kids, mate?
Yeah, 100%.
You go right now, like they get all the cars. Yeah. There's not one car that's made in Australia anymore. There's not a dirt bike. There's not a chainsaw. There's not nothing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's a guy up the road from me now, and there's a battery joint called Custom Lithium. They make stuff in Australia. There's another guy around the corner from me, Fat Bars, Tom, and all that. They make stuff in Australia. I support these businesses 110% because they're doing it. Yeah. Like, and if people listening to me right now, well, get out there, support your local. You know, we're out there on the front line. We're trying as hard as we can. The ATO is making it so hard for us. And guess what? They're going to even chase us for our super now.
Yeah.
So, like, we need to unify as a community and say, no, I'm going to go down to that barbershop and I'm going to spend my money in my barbershop. Yeah. You know, I'm going to go down to that mechanic because he's my mechanic and he's better than the dealer. Yeah. You know, well, I'm going to do all of this stuff because if we're not doing that and we're supporting the tyrants...
Yeah, you got to support local.
You have to.
Because it's weird, like, with this podcast as well, like the number one country is listened to is America.
Yeah.
Now, like, that made me a bit like, I was like, oh, like, I've never been to America. Like,
yeah, 100%.
I was like, I started trying to think of ways to increase my audience in Australia. But I don't know why I brought that up. It felt like it just related to that, like more support from overseas rather than where I live, which I found strange, 100%. Where people who live in Australia usually buy things from overseas as well. Yes. Like, I feel like it's a commonality in loads of countries where they support things far before they support things local. And I think, like, we should flip that to support things local and then outsource if we really need to.
I agree 100%. How are we going to do it?
Yeah.
No, this is the way we're going to do it from my perspective, is supporting local, filling our Instagrams with Australian businesses. Doesn't matter whether it's female owned or male owned. All you got to do is go, yes, it's Australian. I enjoy it. Yeah. Bang, like. Done. You know what I mean? And like, if you want to do your podcast in somewhere that's cool and out of the way and everything like that, come. You know what I mean? Just come. Just follow me. Bang. You can go in there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm the type of bloke that does not ask for permission. I never have. I never will. Yeah. You know what I mean? If I want to do something, I just go and do it. Yeah. You know, like, Lockie trains me at All-Star Boxing and I look like an absolute tosspot in that ring. Did I ask permission from any motherfucker? No, I didn't. I just did it.
Shut up.
You know, and Benny says that to me. He goes, that's real. You know what I mean? You gotta walk the walk and you got to talk the talk. Yeah. You know, you got to do these things. If you're not doing these things, then what are you doing? Yeah. You know what I mean? And then in doing that, even when I spoke to one of my best mates, Joshy, who owns Jericho, and he needed a hand for the CMC, and we did barbering. I wasn't a nominated barber. I was the help. He rang me. He's just like, mate, I need help. And I'm like, 110%, I was there. Now, my whole barbershop backed me. Yep. I got through the 4-day event. He didn't need me on the 5th day, A, because I was exhausted, and B, I just didn't want to actually be there. And I think he knew that, but he didn't actually need me for money. Yep. So I did everything that I needed from him. And I say that to people all the time. You know, yeah, I've got a bit of money, but, like, I wouldn't even charged him $1 because my mate needed a hand. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I was there. You know, I'm just I'm cutting hair in 50-something degrees in a black tent in the middle of the CMC. Do you think I wanted to be there? Yeah. Or do you think I hated it? I can tell you one thing. It's a mix between the two. Yeah. But no one knew that. And I had so much fun. And I was exhausted. I was burnt out. I was everything. Like, I was so cooked one day. I was laying out on one of the benches. I think I was having hypothermia or something. And I've just passed out. I woke up 10 minutes later and then I dusted off a big slug of water back in the tent cutting hair. Yeah. That's the way by then. It's like supporting your mates and supporting their businesses as well. Like, I find, like, if your mate does start a business, don't expect to get like a 50% discount. Like, support their business. Like, support what they do. Yeah. You know, like, if they're selling shirts, buy a shirt at the price they're selling that. Like, support them. 100%. And then we've got a loyalty program at my barbershop, but you've got to earn it. Yeah. So you have every single time you come to my barbershop, you charge full freight. Bang, 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 bang. You come 7 times, you get a free haircut. You know what I mean? And people say to me, that's a lot to give away. And I say to them, I said, yeah, cool. Have a look at the P&L. What do you think happens? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to earn it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I will give, you know what I mean? But I give if you give. Yeah. It's the same as Josh. He gives me 110%. It's the same as every one of my business people. Even my bookkeeper does it. Like, sometimes I can't even pay her. Yeah. But she still keeps doing my books. Because she knows I'm good for it. I'll pay. You know what I mean? Sometimes in business, you just can't pay. Yeah. I mean, I don't need to explain that. I don't need to go, oh, because of this and because of that. No, they back you. Like Joshy, when I did one of my first orders with him, when I first up in my barbershop, the whole 9 yards, I completely forgotten. Completely forgotten.
Yeah.
He rang me one day. He goes, Macca, he's going, how's it going? And I said to him, yeah, good. He said, have you got some money for me yet? And I said to him, what money? He goes, yeah, bro. He's like, you owe me money, remember? And I was like, oh, yeah, sweet. All right. He goes, I'll resend you the invoice. He said, just get it to me when you can. A couple of weeks later, bang, done.
Yeah.
But did he question me? Did he make me feel bad? Did he do anything? No, of course not, because he was looking after his mate.
Yeah. But I think it's also, like, for yourself too, like, shows the importance of being a man of your word.
Oh, you have
as
to
well,
be.
like, because then people just have that trust within you because of that. Like, if you were just like, yeah, I will pay the invoice, I'll pay it when I can, and then just 6 months go by. You know, like, if you're actually a man of your word, people can put trust in you. And that's how, you know, you can develop good relationships.
But it manifests from within.
Yeah.
It's like me and you are talking as mates right now. From this conversation after this podcast, you ring me up and you ask me for a solid, man, it's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's who I am. That's who I will be. I don't compromise my integrity. I don't compromise my trust. I don't compromise nothing. If I can't do it, I'll literally say to you, nah, bro, I can't.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you can respect that and go, yeah, Chris is busy, then I'll ring you when I'm free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the same as you. If I ring you again and say, let's do another podcast, and you go, oh, man, I'm busy, I'll go, yeah, that's cool, bro. You just let me know.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, is it's that integrity and that beautiful connection that we can all have as blokes supporting each other and women. But, like, I just feel personally that it's all about that connection. It's all about that respect. It's all about being there. You know, and when we have those problems, we're not in trouble. There's enough people that we'll get in trouble from. You know what I mean? Like,
I like you said there too, like respect, but also like the respect you have for yourself for saying no sometimes.
Oh, 100%.
I think that's important because I think too many times people can overpromise things.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
But it's good to like be like, no, I actually can't do that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
have respect for yourself, but also you're respecting the other person.
Yep.
Because you're not wasting your own time, wasting the other person's time or energy or anything like that, you know? And I think, you know, the power of no is also just as powerful as the power of yes.
Because it's the balance.
Yeah.
When I say no to someone, and this is an amazing skill to have, say no with empathy. Say yes with empathy.
Yeah.
Okay, but don't compromise yourself. You know what I mean? So, for example, like Mindy, the other day, we've been going through a few things at work, and she's my shop mum, and I've got the other fella, and he's had a few problems with his Land Cruiser, so we've had to move a little bit of money to help out with that. Mindy's just like, cool, you owe me a bit of money, but the speaker's broke or something like that. And she's just, don't even worry about it. She's just like, in a few months' time, my rego's due. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
And that was an unequivocal no but she respected me enough to instantly find another solution.
Yeah.
With no compromise, no bullshit, no nothing.
Yeah.
And then I texted her that same night, cheers, Mindy. And she's like, yeah, it's all good, bro. Like, it's like she doesn't question the fact that she's going to get paid for like these little extra things that we do. Then we're not talking about wages. We're not talking about this stuff. We're talking about all the other things that we do.
Yeah.
And she knows that we had to get this old Land Cruiser up and going, and it was a big thing for him and everything like that. And she's like, yeah, that's cool. We'll do that. And then in a few weeks' time or a month's time, she's like, my rego's due. Let's just do that. And then I've got a new guy that's just started, and mate, he's going to be the most passionate, most beautiful person that I'm adding to my shop. He's an old lawn bowler. He's just got everything that we need. And he's the same. He's just like Macca. He's just like, it doesn't matter. He's like, if he said even if you can't pay me one week and you pay me double the next week, it's cool. He's like, I got you, bro, because he knows that this business takes off, and we all know it's going to. We've got Anaconda going up the road. We've got billions and billions of dollars being spent right there in Brendale. And I say that to people. This is billions of dollars. Like,
it's going to get more populated.
It's
100.
huge, man.
Yeah.
And my barbershop's right there, bang smack in the middle. So if I say that to anybody, I say it to everyone. Just come say hi. You don't even need to come get a haircut. You know, like there's so many people that just walk in just to say hi and talk shit. You know, and 9 times out there, we're sitting there playing Xbox or being idiots. You know what I mean? So, and that's the thing. It's like, I can't wait for the future. Don't ask me how I'm going to do it because I don't have the answers for you. Don't ask me how I'm going to afford it because I don't know. Like 9 times out of 10, I'm literally riding by the seat of my pants. You know what I mean? And that's how I love it. You know, it makes me feel alive.
Well, it sounds like we'll have to do a podcast in the future then.
Yeah. And you're invited, man. Like, you come to the barbershop, come to the hip hops, come to anywhere you like, you know.
Yeah, I'll be there for sure.
Yeah.
Hip hop sounds cool. I want to come to the shop as well. Just check it out and say hello to everyone down there.
Yeah. It's just a really good place to be, and it's the heartbeat of Brendale. And we've got big things that we've launched. We've launched Find at Brendale. We've done all of these big things. We've turned like Brendale into a Bunnings warehouse essentially on the internet. Yeah. So you type in Find It Brendale on Google and you can literally find everything in Brendale.
So good.
Yeah, there's 138 mechanics in Brendale.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Like, you know, and like, oh no, but there's one barbershop, and that's me. You know, like, and then you've got World's Gym, you've got Exo Fitness, you've got a pole dancing studio that's some of the most elite pole dancers in Australia. You know, you've got all of these amazing stuff, and it's all right there. You know, so it's pretty cool.
It's like the new hub in North Brizzy.
Well, it really is, and North Lakes is great. So I know a lot about North Lakes, but it doesn't seem to have that local energy about it.
No, it doesn't seem like there's like a local community, you know what I mean?
No, like I can literally reach out to the bosses when I have a quiet time, like when that cyclone hit. And I reached out to a lot of bosses. I said, look, there's no business. They're like, yeah, cool, Macca. They're coming down with $100 notes.
Yeah.
Just come in and support, bang. And they're like, no change. Yeah. And I literally rang my bookkeeper and I'm just like, well, I've somehow made more money when the cyclone hit. And she's just like, oh shit, righto. So we had to make it all like, you know, disappear. And I was just like, that's awesome. You know what I mean? And like I said that to a lot of them. I said, well, why did you do that? And they said, well, we were just kicking stones around the courtyard, so we might as well come see you.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, that cyclone was crazy.
Yeah, it was. I ended up bazzing it up north for a few days.
Yeah.
Just to be safe.
I was just like so freaked out by it. And then being me, I'm just like, well, I'm just going to stay open. Because I'm like there every day. And people are like saying to me in my private life, they're like, you're insane. I'm just like, yeah, I'll be fine. There's a generator. It's all good.
I've got my clippers. Should be fine.
I didn't even question it. And then like my palm trees out the front of my barbershop were like literally sideways. And I'm like, yeah, it's still good.
I have a good story to tell.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Before we finish up, do you have anything coming up that you wanted to plug?
Yeah, huge events coming up with just my barbershop. So we're doing a day on the 20th of September. That's the Saturday before the school holiday starts. There's going to be a big sausage sizzle. It's all free. It's there for community to be out front of my barbershop. And I'm doing 2 hours at all-star boxing in a barber chair. That's like really big for me as a barber because like that gym pulls at the strings of my heart because there's so many kids in that gym that Benny doesn't even charge for, you know what I mean? And they all deserve nice things, you know what I mean? And they come from beautiful families or broken families or whatever it is. And my barber chair will be there and I'll do as many haircuts as I possibly can.
I love that.
You know, and you know, at some point in my life, I'll probably have carpal tunnel and my hands will be broken, but I'll have passed my trade to apprentices that will still have that same passion, that same power. And, like, I'll be there. So I don't care who you are, like, just come, you know what I mean? And even if you're feeling insecure or you're feeling that, you know, you're not cool enough and everything like that, well, you're my type of person.
Yeah,
you know
everyone down there will look after you.
Exactly. So it's on the 20th. I'll be cutting hair. Lockie was talking to me the other night. I think we'll kick it off from 7 o'clock in the morning. So I'll be going 7 to 9, free haircuts to anyone. And then back at the barbershop, the barbecue will kick off from 8 a.m. There'll just be a barbecue out the front, same as it always is. Mason will be there. There'll be a little donations jar for him. And he's a little comp, like 65cc racer, and we put money in that. And then at the end of the day, I buy some shirts for the kids at All Star, and I give Mason some money.
Yeah, awesome. Well, make sure everyone gets down there and supports, or comes down for a cut and say hello.
Yeah, well, we still make money on the day. You know, the haircuts we still charge for, but like it's just fun, you know, and that's why I do it.
Yeah. And the last question is a question I ask everyone.
Yeah.
What's your definition of success?
Well, it's a big question.
Yeah.
Success is if you're happy with yourself. And then there's a poem, and it's called The Dash. And I'll ask you back a question. Success is what are you going to do with your dash? And that's it, bro.
Yeah.
Really it is. You know what I mean? So, like, if anyone's listening, look at that poem. Understand that poem. Success is the definition of what you're doing with your dash. There's two dates on that gravestone. You know what I mean? So what are you doing? Are you being successful?
When you said that to me, it gave me a visual.
Yeah, but that's what it is, bro. When you ask a hard question, I'm going to give you a hard answer.
Yeah.
Because I've thought about that a lot in my life. And that's what I truly see success as, is just finding something that is bigger than what we are as a person or as a thing or whatever you want to be. And then it's that dash, it's that moment in time, because that can be over like that. You know what I mean? As long as you're doing it, you're successful.
100%. Well, Chris, thanks for coming on the One Talk podcast.
Hey, man. I'll be here next time.
Cheers.